Congresswoman Norma Torres has represented the 35th District of California since 2014 and serves on the House Appropriations Committee and its subcommittee on state and foreign operations. She was born in Guatemala and has been a champion in Congress for addressing the root causes of migration from the region. It was her amendment to the 2019 Defense Authorization Bill that required the Secretary of State to send to Congress a list of corrupt officials from the region as a mechanism to hold officials accountable. We are so glad, Congresswoman, that you are joining us this evening to introduce Carlos Palomo Sosa and Diego Jacobo Valladares from the Salvadoran organization TRACODA, as well as Helen Mack Change and Lisette Vasquez from the Myrna Mack Foundation. Congresswoman.
Buenas noches a todos. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me here tonight. Senator Kane, it's so great to see you. Thank you for your love, your dedication, your hard work, and for never giving up on this important region of our hemisphere. Been following your work for quite a long time, and I just cannot thank you enough. Thank you to the National Endowment for Democracy for all of your important work in Central America and throughout the world. It is wonderful to be here among these amazing organizations, champions of human rights and democracy from Central America. The region and causes that are near and dear to my heart, personally and professionally. I appreciate all the work Ned does to support these brave actors and influence our policy and programming in this increasing, challenging environment. We see daily attacks against the rule of law and democratic institutions across the region. We see emboldened leaders act more and more brazenly to protect their own corrupt interests. It is increasingly clear that we cannot rely on these governments as credible partners, so instead, we must rely on civil society to carry the mantle of democracy. This is why it is such an honor to present this award to the Transparency, Social Controller, and Open Data Association from El Salvador and the Myrna Mack Foundation of Guatemala. These groups are confronting the challenges in the region with remarkable spirit to fight against all odds for change. TRACODA's commitment to transparency and anti-corruption is meeting a critical need. In closing civic space, TRACODA adeptly pivoted from championing reform to pushing back against corruption and authoritarianism. TRACODA's work to strengthen security for civil society and activists, as well as grow support for freedom of association and information, is allowing the anti-corruption fight to move forward. Their media savviness and public awareness campaigns help show how transparency and accountability affects Salvadorians' day-to-day lives. We saw just this past weekend, as thousands took to the streets, the power of anti-corruption movement in El Salvador. I'm so impressed by your work. And the Myrna Mack Foundation is accustomed to being the alarm that sounds against human rights abuses in the hard fight for justice. In fact, the foundation was born from that very struggle. Without your staunch advocacy and commitment, we may have never seen accountability to your sister's murder and many other human rights cases. You are continuing the fight that your sister started, and you have been a voice for all Guatemalans who deserve to live in peace, who deserve to have prosperity and hope. As you know, this work does not come easy. You face daily mental, physical, and professional risks for challenging the status quo and speaking truth to power. Every day, it seems that there are new setbacks and provocations for those of us who care about the rule of law. However, those of you here, those of you in the region, continue to fight despite the great personal risks to you, to your lives, and to your families. Your commitment and your bravery give me hope for the region. It is the reason why I continue to fight and push alongside you. It is incumbent on those of us with a platform and power to speak up, to defend you, to protect you, and to enable you to continue doing this critical work. We cannot allow those fighting to silence us to win. Thank you to Ned and to all of you today. You have my unwavering support, and I look forward to continuing to partner with you on this very important work, not for us, not for them, but for the future generations, like that 5-year-old Norma Torres, who deserved to have a seat in the Congress of Guatemala, but my future was stolen from me in the region. We must protect those young kids so they too can see a future for themselves in their own country. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity tonight. TRACODA? Déjame nomás darle esto y luego vienen a hablar.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I would like to say just a few brief words. Well, first, I would like to take this moment to thank the National Endowment for Democracy for recognizing us with this award and overall for their continuous support in promoting democracy and accountability in an increasingly hostile environment for civil society in El Salvador. It is in their name that we take this award. El Salvador is facing an acute decline in democracy. Since this last May, there are no counterweights within the Salvadoran government, and we have seen an increase in harassment towards civil society and independent media. The point that we would really like to get across to our allies and partners in the United States, but also in the international community at large, is that governments without a strong and independent judiciary and that act hostile towards people who promote accountability and transparency are not reliable partners in the fight against corruption and all of the root causes of inequality and migration. I would like to finish saying that we ask that you continue to support civil society and media, the people on the ground who put themselves at risk for their work in holding governments accountable. We cannot do this work without you. Only through a strong and robust civil society, we will be able to promote better conditions for our region. Thank you very much.
I didn't have time to make my translation, so I don't know if the interpreter can help me. So I'm going to do it in Spanish. I'm sorry. Well, first of all, we want to thank National Endowment to recognizing the Myrna Mack Foundation work. So, en nombre de la Fundación Myrna Mack nos sentimos muy honrados y agradecidos al National Endowment por el reconocimiento que nos han dado, pero no solamente es a la fundación, sino que también a toda la sociedad civil, que es importante que se nos escuche. Y todo esto es a pesar de todas las adversidades en las que hemos estado sufriendo últimamente. Todos los países de la región se han estado cerrando los espacios para la sociedad civil y vimos con suma esperanza es el plan que el presidente Biden lanzó. Sin embargo, cada vez se ponen y se cierran más estos espacios. Y todo esto porque estamos con la firme convicción de los principios de la democracia, de la importancia de luchar contra la corrupción y la impunidad, de defender los derechos humanos, la expresión de libertad y también de la independencia judicial, de pesos y contrapesos de los principios democráticos. El denominador común en la región ha sido el incremento de gobiernos autoritarios y son responsables en buena medida de la consolidación de varios fenómenos que afectan gravemente los derechos humanos a la población. La gran corrupción formada por un sistema cleptocrático, la narcocleptocracia, que tiene que ver con los partidos políticos, la captura del sistema de justicia, que es la que debería de aplicar con independencia, imparcialidad y objetividad los delitos que se cometen. Y para ello se han impulsado una agenda regresiva con patrones similares en toda la región. Y eso incluye la cooptación o la captura de instituciones de control y encargadas de la administración de justicia. La criminalización, campañas de desprestigio en contra de todas aquellas personas que no pensamos igual que el régimen. Y esto va dirigido especialmente a jueces independientes, investigadores, fiscales, defensores de derechos humanos, autoridades indígenas o pueblos indígenas, en el caso de Guatemala, defensoras y defensores de derechos humanos y también reporteros independientes, los medios independientes. Cada vez se hace más endeble la división de poderes y las acciones regresivas ponen en evidencia la forma en que actúan las redes político-económicas ilícitas para llevar a cabo estas acciones al margen de la ley y satisfaciendo sus intereses mezquinos, garantizando así la impunidad, tal como se ha logrado demostrar en las investigaciones que la Fundación ha hecho con el apoyo del National Endowment. El premio que hoy recibimos por parte de NED nos sigue comprometiendo con los compromisos de la democracia de la lucha contra la impunidad, que es la que socava la democracia. En un contexto como la pandemia del COVID, se nos hace aún más difícil, pero que esperamos que con la solidaridad internacional podamos sacarlo adelante. Muchas gracias.
Good evening, everyone. I'm hoping that the interpreter will be able to translate what I just said because I didn't manage to get a translation to him. So I'm going to start by saying that civic spaces are closing left and right, and we had a lot of hope for Biden's plan, but nonetheless, we have to recognize that those spaces are closing. We continue to believe in the fight for democracy. We have to believe in the fight for people to express themselves freely. We must continue to work in order to foment counterweights within our current systems. As the president of the Myrna Mack Foundation, we would like to say that we are honored and we are so grateful for the award that we have been given by the National Endowment for Democracy, as well as, of course, civil society in general. This is an important acknowledgement for civil society because despite adversity, it maintains a firm belief that we must continue to defend human rights and continue to fight against corruption and impunity in the context of growing hostility against advocates for human rights and those who defend justice in our region. It is now a common factor in our region, the rise of authoritarian governments who are responsible in great measure for the consolidation of the situations that currently greatly impact human rights amongst our populations. Corruption, the kleptocracy, the narco-kleptocracy, I should say, are clearly promoted by a regressive agenda that is filled with patterns that include the co-optation of our governing institutions and institutions that are meant to deliver justice. We see defamatory campaigns constantly. We see that those campaigns are led against leaders and advocates of human rights, as well as those who don't think the same as our government. The ever-weakening separation of powers and regressive actions, which show that illicit political economic networks are working outside of the law in order to fulfill their petty desires, securing impunity, just as we have seen demonstrated in research that has been carried out by the Myrna Mack Foundation with the support of the National Endowment for Democracy. The award that we received today from the National Endowment for Democracy represents the challenge and commitment of the foundation to continue strengthening civil society capacities to exercise their human rights. We hope that we will be able to continue fomenting the defense of these human rights through international solidarity as a way to push them forward. Thank you very much.